And we're here today with State Senator Lucio of Brownsville. We're doing a series of videos before he leaves office. And in today's video, we want to talk about infrastructure, the legislation the senators worked on over the many decades to improve infrastructure here in the Rio Grande Valley. And so this one is sort of open-ended. Senator, you can take it in any direction you want. Many people, when you think of infrastructure, they'll think of the highways and the lack of them back in the day, and how much things have improved today with the interstates or partial interstates we have. But any other infrastructure topics you want to talk about? So take it away if you will.
Thank you, Steve. My first venture into infrastructure actually came in 1971, 1972. I was a county treasurer, and I had a group of people that came into my office, and they were from a colonia. The name of the colonia was Portway Acres, right there next to Cameron Park. It's a little colonia. And they wanted someone to listen to them. And I told them that obviously they needed to talk to their commissioner, the commissioner's court, but they insisted that I go out there because I was the county treasurer, and that maybe I could find some money for them or something. It was, I think, God sent, because it gave me a first-hand look how poorly the infrastructure in some of these colonias that we call colonias, substandard subdivisions that came into play. Unfortunately, what we did was raise some money there amongst all the people that lived there. There was some terrible craters. I mean, it was terrible. And I just felt in my heart we had to help these people. And the county decided that they were going to use their labor and machinery to take care of that if they put the money up for the materials. So I talked to the judge at the time, and I was able to, and commissioners, and I was able to help them out. That became call it the signature event of what was to come when I went into the legislature. Because moving forward from 1971, 72 to 1991, 92, 93, and then a little later on, I worked on a big package for $175 million. It was Governor Rick Perry that was in office at the time. He had just taken office. And then Governor Perry, Rick Perry, and I were state representatives together. We had a great friendship, relationship, and all. I went to him and I pleaded with him, we need to pass this bond issue. So we passed a bill that allowed the people of Texas to vote to approve these bonds, and all that money would go for infrastructure in colonias between Brownsville and El Paso, and we used it all up, and we built up some infrastructure that still stands today. Back in the 90s, and it was 2001 actually when we did that, but the people of Texas voted for it and they approved it, and people in rich areas of the state, voted to have these funds go to these poor people. I was overwhelmed. I was so happy that areas like Highland Park and other areas around Dallas that were affluent, Houston, River Oaks, all voted, to send these funds to these poor people and build up the roads. I thank God. I did. And then I thanked the governor because he and I, we campaigned statewide for it, asked people to please support this effort. So that was an infrastructure that took place here that a lot of people maybe forgot about, but brought the quality of life that was needed at a time when people were, had problems with their health care. School buses couldn't go in to pick up the children. EMS vehicles couldn't go pick up the ill. There was so much going on and that's why this was needed. Well, later on, we kept on realizing from the moment I got to Austin in '87 that we weren't on a national map of highways, and that nobody really looked at the valley as being part of the economic development that was taking place nationwide. So we went to work even then, and we finally, after a couple of decades of hard work, came about with the interstates we have today and the millions and billions of dollars that are being spent in infrastructure throughout the state, including the valley in South Texas. So we were part of that, and the representatives and senators that I've worked with, many of which are gone now, I can't help but thanking them even today for courageously going out and supporting things that maybe some of their constituents say, hey, don't be sending money down there when we need it here, or you just fight for us. And they didn't. They fought for Texas. And that's why I respect people on both sides of the aisle, Democrats, Republicans alike. To me, are men and women from every corner of the state that I've worked with have proven to me that they're worthy to be called great Texans, and Texans with compassionate heart. So that's happened. So I'm pretty happy over the fact that we have a multi-billion-dollar budget that addresses infrastructure still. And what I'm worried about is where are we going to be infrastructure-wise 50 years from now? What kind of travel modes are we going to have? We're going to have any cars left? We're traveling through air. I mean, what is it that will exist in Texas, in our country and world 50, 60 years from now? That's really just around the corner when you think of time, because I've already lived that long and more. So it's coming. So we have to prepare and just do our best to make sure we address the needs, the present day needs, and then look ahead a little bit to see where we need to be. I think the state has done a wonderful job. We're always recognized by winter Texans that come here from all over the country as having the best highways in the country. So we must be doing something right at TxDOT. We have a great commission appointed by the governor, confirmed by the state, men and women who vote on all these projects. We have engineers in every sector of the state that do their job, and it's an incredible agency that is responsible for spending billions of tax dollars that the people of our great state make possible through their obviously taxation that takes place. So I'm thrilled. We authored other forms of infrastructure that needed to be made at the time in colonias and small communities, and that was water and wastewater infrastructure that was needed to create a better quality of life, to bring more businesses into small communities. And we passed, I passed in 2007 SJR 20, I believe. It created a $250 million bond authority that for critical drinking water and wastewater services in in not only colonias but small communities in South Texas. Later on, we passed another bond issue that took it statewide, $500 million more. So we have put close to $1 billion into that effort since I got there. And yes, they're there. And I had to take it statewide because the senators from other parts of the state, hey, we got the same needs. I said, it's okay, we're taking it statewide. But it started here in the border. It started here in the valley. It started here from here to El Paso and South Texas. So I'm real happy over the fact that the people of Texas have voted every time to approve those bonds, and the whole state has paid for it. So, here we are.
I was going to ask you about that too. Back to 2001 and that bond issue where you got all that funding, you had Governor Perry's support, and it was put to the voters, and like you say, in the wealthier parts of Texas they voted yes. With all the negative coverage of the border today, if that sort of a similar proposition was put to the voters today, do you think there would be the support statewide for our region?
It's a little harder today for some reason. It could be social media. It could be many things. But we need to, our mentality, our hearts have to stay as they have traditionally. Be a good neighbor. Care for your neighbor. Work with your neighbor. Let's get it done together. We're all in this together. That was something I said during my last campaign in 2020. We're all in this together. So I hope that we can continue to do something like that in the future. There's a lot still to be done. We're not completely covered, with, and we haven't finished the job that we started, but we've gained on it. Some to a point where we can be very happy with people's quality of life. I get a pat in the back sometimes at Walmart. Somebody comes up and thanks me for their home, and I says, I don't remember signing your mortgage. I'm just kidding. I said, which program was that? It says, the bootstrap program. He said, yeah, that's something we passed way back, and it people can build their own infrastructure, lay pipes and do some work. That's why it's called a bootstrap program. You put on those boots, you get to work. The state of Texas makes it possible through the partnerships with financial institutions to have the money necessary so that a family can build their home and pay a low mortgage on it and have their own home and be taxpayers and be part of the American dream they've always dreamed of being part of. So there's a lot of wonderful things out there, Steve, that have been accomplished, and we're just real happy that we were able to work with the right people in doing so. Am I concerned for the future? Yes, I am. I want less bond throwing. I want more. I want people to embrace themselves without even touching, with a smile. I mean, do whatever it takes to come together and find answers to and solutions to the ills of our society. It can be done, like we did it in the 90s and at the turn of the 2000s. Anything is possible. You just have to make sure that there's respect and that flows back and forth to people, and not name calling and all sorts of things that takes place unfortunately in the political arena, which I just wish it was a different approach that we might have. And someday we might have it, Steve. We might have where there aren't any political parties. They're just men and women who say, I want to be on the school board, and then you check their resume, you check to see what they're about, you have a forum, you let them speak, you listen, then you make a decision. Not independents or the progressives, which I personally don't agree with, and others that will lead us to an impasse. Just not being able to do what we need to do to make it better.
Before we close this video discussion on the infrastructure, I was just going to say that if anyone wants to come down and see the difference that's been made with all those bond issues that have come down to help the infrastructure in the colonias, just drive down to Las Milpas in your district today and see the difference, and just see how bustling it is, how much development is. So much so that the population in South Far is almost as big as North Far today. It is a huge area of a large population, and it's just been transformed.
That's
following
right.
all that legislation.
What needs to happen now is how we started our conversations, and that is to address the needs of the human being, the young boy, the young girl in school who is finding it difficult to be there because their parents are getting a divorce, or their family is falling apart, or they're hungry, they don't have a home, they lost everything. We need to reach out to those people and not let them, go through through any hole. I mean, we need to pull them up. We need to raise them and help them. That's what we all need to do together in every corner of the state, not just Brownsville, Texas, McAllen, or any area of the valley, but the whole border, all of South Texas, every bit of Texas. We have young people that need our support, and we need to help them. That's what I'm hoping for in my later years, to be able to be part of a movement that can help them reach their full potential.
Well, Senator, thank you so much for today's interview.
Thank you.